Welcome to the Fold Mysteries, where we seek to discover everything that lies between the folds of reality. I totally got busted looking at my phone to pull up our guest bio today. I got busted. It's okay though. Um, so I know that everybody is wondering why Abe is here. So this is our surprise co-host for this evening. So I'm
Uh,
really excited to have you join.
I'm excited too. Thanks for the opportunity of having me on. It's been a while since I've co-hosted or even hosted for, like I said, a while. The last episode of MNBRT Radio was in 2018. And so to do this and to have this opportunity, I was like, yes, want to jump on it. So thank you.
I'm so excited to have you along. You're very, very, very intelligent. You're very well versed in the topic that we're going to cover tonight. So,
No,
um,
thank you.
MNBRT. Yes. So I'm excited to have you along. And I know that you're going to add some really quality conversation to what we're going to be speaking with our guests about this evening.
My favorite subject.
Yes, Bigfoot. Um,
Yeah.
So, news for the Fold Mysteries. We have had kind of a weird schedule with the podcast, and that's just because I am in my final semester of college. So it is taking about thank you. It's taking about 3 hours worth of study a night. So it has been very hard for me to coordinate things that are coming up with the conference that we have going on and school and work because I'm salary, so I'm working all day long. Um, so I apologize that we didn't have a show last week. I couldn't get a guest lined up, and so things kind of fell apart for that. So I apologize to everybody, but I'm hoping that moving forward it will be weekly again. So, but I can thank you, Abe, for helping us with our guests tonight. But first, any news in the MNBRT world?
Not more of the M. Well, yes. So we're getting things lined up for the 2026 MBC as far as speakers go. We've got some lines out there. We're just waiting to hear back from. I got goosebumps already. We're waiting to hear back from a confirmation. However, as far as research goes, the last 2 years in the wintertime, they've been really, really slow as far as reports and things like that. I haven't even heard anything as far as weird vocalizations or anything or mysterious footprints. So yeah, this past 2 years is just things have really been quiet. However, there's a lot more logging going on in the Northwoods as well. So there could be something out of balance with that too. And that could be part of what we're seeing. I guess you can see in the decrease of possible activity. Other than that, we're all just kind of hunkered down for the wintertime, much like a Sasquatch, basically.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah. So, no, and you're welcome. It was my pleasure to get you a guest for tonight. And it's even more of a pleasure to be right by your side tonight.
Yeah, yeah. Which he spends a lot of time by your side because he is a member of MNBRT, correct?
Yes, he is. Actually, matter of fact, I think he is celebrating 10 years this month as being an official team member because it was
Wow.
in early of 2016 where he joined the team. So yes, absolutely. And I'll
Very
let you do
cool.
the introduction. And yeah, go right ahead. It was
All
fun.
right, so welcome to the stage, Michael Hexum, aka Pops. So thank you tonight for joining us.
Well, thank you, and welcome to the North Country. This is Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team's northern headquarters up here.
Awesome. I love it. So a little bit about Mike, aka Pops, is a member of the Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team, MNBRT, and has had 3 Bigfoot sightings that took place in northern Minnesota. Most recently, one July 11th, 2021, while filming a YouTube show called All Gas No Brakes. His first sighting happened in the early 70s. Since joining the Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team, Mike has been on Animal Planet's hit TV show Finding Bigfoot, along with A. Del Rio, Elusive One. That's you. Mike is also in Mike's Quest. book, Bigfoot, the Minnesota Scene. In going out with the team, Mike has heard wood knocks and has heard the Ohio howl while the team, were in between two creatures and an undisclosed location back in July of 2018. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you, Mike, to the show.
Well, thank you.
Pops. Happy anniversary.
Also we did the what was that show we did?
Minnesota Public Radio.
Yeah, we did the Minnesota Public Radio show. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, you were telling me about that too, Abe. So how was that, like being on like a radio show frequently?
It was kind of interesting because everything I've done for the last 40 years, I kept to myself. I really didn't tell anybody I was into Bigfoot research. And all of a sudden, we did that NPR show, and they had a video on it, and then we got into the newspapers, and it's like, oh my God. The word's out now, so people that I knew for years had no idea I was doing Bigfoot research up here. I kind of kept it quiet.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I think a lot of people go through this period where if they didn't start in the limelight, where one story gets out and the next thing you know, your name's a little bit more well known. So yeah, it's a whole different world when people look to you for Bigfoot experiences, Bigfoot advice. So I find that interesting. How long did you research before you started on the radio show?
Oh boy, I started in the late 70s, I think, somewhere around there. I had my first sighting in the early 70s, and I kind of kept my mouth shut. My dad didn't really want me telling anybody about what I seen. And living up here in northern Minnesota, I'm about probably 60 miles or maybe less from the Canadian border. I grew up with a lot of the old lumberjacks up here that were cutting trees back in the 40s, 50s, 60s. And I started talking to them in the 70s, and they would tell me stories about what they seen out in the woods. And that's when I first started to learn more about what I had seen. And then, of course, the Patterson-Gilman film came out, and then Finding Bigfoot. I was watching Finding Bigfoot every week, and that would give me some of the answers to the questions I had myself. So, but I've experienced a lot of stuff up here in the last 40 years. Strange smells, wood knocks, mumble talk. Seen 3 of them. One at 20 feet away. Taken a lot of reports over the years from people that have had sightings up here and where I live. In fact, there's a friend of mine that's had, he's gave us 2 reports, about one on his property and then another one out where he goes fishing. So I'm kind of getting excited. Spring is around the corner now. The cabin people, I call them, will be back up for the summer. So hopefully I will get some good reports and be able to get out in the field and do some, major researching again this summer.
Yeah. So is that when you typically tend to see a lot more activity, a lot more movement, is more towards the spring and summer?
Yeah, right now where I live on a small lake, and there's probably about 6 of us living on the lake year round. And then the surrounding area, there's cabins, but nobody's up here in the winter, so it's just kind of a dead. In the wintertime, it's really dead up here. Spring and summer, we call them the cabin people come up, and so there's more people up here for the summer, and that's when I start getting reports.
Yeah, so I wonder if it's a lot to do with like the weather and also the amount of people that's available to see the Bigfoot and to actually report it.
Not so much the weather, the amount of people up here that are actually having a visual contact with, seeing them and that. I have my own theory what they do in the winter, so I know where to pretty much look for them in the winter if I want to go looking. And then the summer, I have my own theory of where they hang out in the summer. And that's, all the years I've been researching, I've learned things, I don't know everything. I learn something new every year. I'm still learning, even at I'm almost 70 years old. I'm still learning. I'm not an
Yeah.
expert.
Yeah. I think we're always still learning. And I've noticed over time it almost seems like the type of things that you experience and the what becomes typical behavior tends to change over time, because I noticed, like, over years of even my own lifetime, the type of structures have changed, and not necessarily based on location, but just I remember going out and playing in, like, these igloo style things when I was a kid, and we would tell my mom about it. We could never get her out to look at them, but she would tell me that they just grew like that. So, even though I was young, I'd look and they were in the ground, like they were created like that. And the inside was real mossy and soft. And we would play in there as kids, me and my sisters. And now you don't really see those or hear of those anymore. And now you're starting to hear of these ground nests, which I don't think was reported back then. So it's almost as if the phenomena is changing.
Well, it's kind of interesting because in the wintertime, I would believe, this is my opinion, they head towards tamarack swamps because you get into them swamps and that moss grass. I've actually laid down in there taking a nap, but it never really freezes in the winter. So my theory is they go into that tamarack swamps in the winter, and then in the summer they head for the cedar swamps. And the reason for that is the cedar is a natural deterrent for insects.
Hmm. Wow, that makes great sense. Wow. Hey, what do you think? You're sitting just over there so quietly.
No, no, 'cause I know you might have something pop up, so I'm just going to let you take it all away. But that's absolutely right. Cedar swamps is a natural itself is a natural repellent for insects, especially mosquitoes. And I personally don't know what they do in the wintertime. I mean, I can only speculate. Um, I don't think they truly hibernate. I don't think they truly migrate either, because if they have everything that they need in a certain location, they don't have no need for it. Um, and this is, I mean, we were just talking about before Mike came on, we have temperatures that are well below, well, minus 25, minus, in some regions of Minnesota, minus 50 degrees below zero. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck? I think to myself every winter, what the heck are they doing at this time? Is going into a place that he mentioned where it's warmer in the wintertime even feasible for a creature that size? I mean, I know for animals, a lot of times they have to be brought into a barn or something like that when it's that cold. But for a primate or a species of Homo, to be out in that, they would have to make some kind of a shelter or even find a way to go subterranean, I would think.
Well, it's kind of interesting about back in 19 I want to say 95. I was back in an area, Abe knows area, where I trapped and hunted most of my life. And we had an extremely bad winter that year, and I found quite a few dead deer carcasses in the woods. And my experience from hunting that all these years is I checked the leg bones. There was no teeth marks in the leg bones.
Hmm.
And so that would tell me that it wasn't a wolf kill, but the leg bones were snapped like been hit by something. But examining the deer carcasses, I noticed the skins were gone on a couple of them. And so Bigfoot is not stupid. They're very intelligent creatures. I have no doubt that they would use them skins and wrap themselves with them in the wintertime to help keep warm. So,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think of this idea that they like you were mentioning, Abe, that they go underground? Because there's a theory that more of like the swampy places where you get a lot of those putrid smells before
Mm-hmm.
you have a Bigfoot experience, that is because they're living somewhere underground and they're not getting that flow to through their hair that kind of naturally airs them out. So do you think that could be a possibility? Are there places up there where they could get in underground?
So well, there's lots of mines and abandoned mines and old mines up in northern Minnesota because there's a lot of taconite or iron mines, I should say. And it's not too far out of the ordinary to think that they could utilize one of those. But there's, for an instance, I mean, a lot of mines that are a lot of underground caves, for instance, can retain a certain temperature year round. If it's too hot, you can go in there and cool down. If it's too cold, you can go down there and stay stable and warm up as well. A great instance is a cave in Wisconsin called Crystal Cave, and I think it stays right around 50-ish or so degrees year round, which is not freezing cold for a being that size. I would think something like that would be more sustainable and more feasible. Versus staying out in the cold winter long. It's just about where to look. And, you brought up smell. And the thing is with the smell, there are some bogs out there that maybe really never truly freeze over because of the heat that they hold. And with that being said, if you ever stepped in a swamp or in a bog or something like that, it's not the best smelling thing either. So is it that they're kind of, if this is all speculation and ifs, because we really don't know, are they utilizing them and sitting in those to stay warm? And is that attributed to sometimes with the smell as well? Almost like we would think of a natural spring hot tub or something like
that. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. That actually makes a lot of sense.
It's just a lot of questions to this thing. And, I love talking about it. And Mike, he's very knowledgeable, very, very knowledgeable. We've learned a lot from each other over the past 10 years. Actually, yeah, I remember him, I think it was probably back in 2009 when I first started MNBRT Radio, or 2010. I had him on the show, and, then we just really kind of started talking within the past 10 years and stuff. So it's been an amazing adventure with this man, this young guy,
that's awesome.
This grasshopper.
So, Mike, you have had 3 separate Bigfoot encounters. You said you had your first sighting in the 70s. So you've spent a lot of time out in the woods, obviously, from what it sounds like. So that obviously you would have multiple sightings, especially if you seem to attract these creatures. So, I mean, do you want to talk, however long you want, briefly or more extensively, about one of your more impactful Bigfoot experiences?
Well, I could talk all night about my experiences. Believe me, I've had infrasound done on me. I've heard their mumble talk. I had 2 of them talking. I was about 30 feet away. I could hear both of them talking. I could mimic the mumble sound perfectly. According to Ron Moorhead, I could. But yeah, my first experience, I grew up in a hunting family. So an area where I still hunt. I've been in there for, oh gosh, almost 60 years in there hunting. My dad and I were in there, and it was a game reserve. And I was sitting in my deer stand on, I can't remember, it was opening morning now. This is like 1972, I believe. But I had one walk into my shooting lane about 20 feet away, and the wind was coming towards me. It couldn't sense me. And all I remember was the bitter smell I could smell. And this thing was standing in my shooting lane, and it was looking around, and it's going like, what in the heck is going on here? Because prior to us hunting in there, that was a game reserve for almost 50 years. There was been nobody hunting in there. And my uncle was the state trapper for Itasca County at the time. And he found out that this area was being opened up for hunting. So we were the first bunch to ever go in there and hunt. But anyhow, this creature was standing there looking at me like, what is going on? What is going on? And then I made a noise. I can't remember if I said hey or what I said, but it turned and looked at me. And then at about 4 or 5 steps, it was gone. And I can't forget the face on this thing. To me, it looked like a prehistoric man face. It was probably around 7 feet tall, My dad came back in there with me the next morning, and I said it was standing underneath this pine tree branch. And my dad guessed it at about almost 8 feet. And it wasn't big and fat or anything like that. It was pretty slim. But what I really remember is the face. It reminds me a lot of the face that I've seen on the Minnesota Iceman. Real similar in the facial structures on especially the forehead was protruding more, and the nose and that. But I sat there after it walked away. I sat there and I'm going, what the heck did I just see? And I packed up all my gear and I got the heck out of there as fast as I could. I remember that. So I think I was about 14 or 15 years old at the time.
Oh, wow. Wow. How comfortable were you going out into the woods after seeing something like that? Were you pretty okay with it?
Yeah, I wasn't real happy about it, but at that time I didn't really understand what I had seen. And I remember when it was walking towards me, I could see it, something dark, and the first thing I thought was a moose. Then I could hear these bird noises, like chirping noises. And then it walked out in very interesting.
So, Pops, now this was the one. How close was this one from you again?
I'm guessing, 20 to 25 feet, somewhere in there. It wasn't that far. It was close enough I can make out the face on it real good.
No, what time of year was this? You said hunting season. Will this be in November?
Yeah, it would have been in November.
And, was there still a lot of foliage, a lot of leaves on the trees at that time? Or were they kind of starting to fall down?
No, there was no leaves on the trees. Back then, the deer season used to run right after Thanksgiving. And that particular year, we didn't have any snow on the ground that year, so I couldn't really track anything or look for tracks. But yeah, I mean, that time of year, I don't remember how cold it was back that day, but that time of year, it was nothing to sit out there in your deer stand, and it could be anywhere from 0 to 20 below zero. So,
yeah. How much of it did you get to see?
what was that again?
How much of the creature did you get to see?
Well, I got to see the whole creature.
And you said, so what would the sex of the creature be? Was it pretty obvious on the sex?
I believe it was a male. I wasn't looking at anything basically but its face.
Yeah, I suppose it was kind of cold outside, huh? No.
Yeah. No, it did not have breasts or anything like that.
Gotcha. And you said probably around the height of 7.5 feet tall. And what was the color?
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood.
What color did you say it was?
I beg your pardon?
The color?
It was a brownish color. It wasn't a dark color like a bear or anything like that. Okay. And it wasn't that hairy. I've seen a lot of pictures people post on Bigfoot, and the ones I've seen were never really that hairy, except for all gas and no brakes. And all I could see was a figure standing out on the trail. And that looked to be, my guess, probably around 7 or 8 feet tall and probably around 400 to 500 pounds. That looked pretty big.
Oh, dang it.
Huge. So when
and
you
then
say
that time,
scary, go ahead. What were you saying, Michael?
Well, that time we were up on the reservation and we got the Ohio Halls there. And I was using the thermal imager, and this thing stood up from behind a log pile and was standing there looking at me. And then when Abe and Bill at the time was with them, they were coming closer to where that log pile was. This creature got down and was gone. And my guess is, I don't know what it was. It could have been a bear.
Well, I was pretty much right behind your shoulder while you were walking with that thing, and I was trying to record you at the same time. And I don't know if I picked that up on. I didn't see it. He had the thing right in front of him. It was one of the first times where he actually was having the opportunity to tinker around with the thermal imager. So he was like really kind of holding it close and stuff like that. And it wasn't like it was far away where I could see. He was kind of holding it close, and I was kind of over his shoulder trying to record and document everything that was taking place.
Wow.
Yeah.
But the one that he was about 400 or 500 pounds, I was maybe 10 to 15 feet away from him with the host. Well, this thing stepped out on the trail. And, oh, dang. I almost seen it. I almost seen it. Ah, God, I'm right on the heels. Story of my life.
Isn't it crazy how you like always have these weird, crazy sightings at the most inopportune times when you're not really ready?
Yes.
So,
Yeah. It's been like that for 26 years now.
so when you say not that hairy, I'm trying to image what you're talking about. So are you talking about the hair wasn't long? It was more short, or was it more sparse? When you say not that hairy.
Well, it didn't look like a gorilla, but yes, it was covered in hair. And the hair, like I say, I was concentrating more on its face
Yeah.
Okay.
because I was like, what in the heck did I just, what am I looking at? What in the hell is going on, And, but yeah, it wasn't hairy like a gorilla. It was, I believe it was probably shorter hair on it. And like I say, it wasn't real big and heavy.
Yeah.
I don't know, it could have been a juvenile for all I know. Most of my interactions I've had over the years have been, I think, are pretty much juveniles. They're the curious ones. They're going to come out, check you out. And
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm kind of curious. So the one that you saw that was big, like huge, and had more hair, was that the same area, or was that a totally different area that you were researching?
totally different area we were researching. And the last thing I ever expected was this thing to come out onto the trail because Abe was back off the trail with the crew and the cameraman. He was showing them how to do wood knocks, and we were making a lot of noise in there. We were probably, I would say, almost 5 miles back in the woods that we walked. And Abe was demonstrating different things. They were doing different hauls and whoops and everything else. And this thing stepped out on a trail. Me and this young man was with us by the name of Dylan, I believe his name was.
Yeah, it was Dylan.
Yeah, and we seen it. We both seen it. He freaked out. Later that night, we were walking out, and both Dylan and I were being sidetracked on to our right side. This thing was following us through the woods, and like I say, we were probably close to 5 miles in that we had walked, and that was probably the quickest walk we ever made out of the woods.
Well, not yet. I mean, round trip, it might have been 5 miles. It was definitely a good jaunt back there. And when he's seen this, it was right at dusk. It wasn't during the day. It was right at dusk, if not darker.
Yeah.
Like you said, all he got was this silhouette, this big, dark silhouette go on to the woods. And what it did the classic Bigfoot shuffle. It did one of these a couple of times, side to side.
Yep, side step.
And then it went back in the woods. And by the time it went back in the woods, he was like, Abe, guys. I'm like, what? He goes, they were speechless. I was like, what? So he told me about it. We went to go check out the area. By that time, it was just too dark. And I was kicking it's a sensitive subject for me to talk about that site. Yeah.
So you guys have had a lot of experiences together then. I mean, out in the woods, doing what you do together.
Gosh, yeah. Yep. I mean, and that comes with being really active in the field. You're not going to get stuff sitting behind, a screen or in your house. You got answers are all in the woods. They're not behind here. You know what I'm saying? The discoveries are out there. We got to get boots on the ground, and that's why these things happen. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a picture of Mike, you out in the woods. So doing your thing with all your gear. That's pretty awesome.
Oh, that was night we did the finding Bigfoot show.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, they had camera. They had all the camera gear on that night. So, and we actually got a knock coming out of the cedar.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. They had Abe and I divided up into two groups. So it was me. Oh, excuse me. it was me and Cliff and Matt Moneymaker, and then Abe and Bobo and Renee. And Cliff and Matt and I, we walked down a trail that Abe's familiar with. And we've actually camped out and did overnights there, which we got tree knocks there when we were camping. But we walked down that trail, and it leads to a big cedar grove down below the end of this trail, and we got a cedar knock back in that area. It was a cool night. That was a good show.
It was a really good show. And I just recently uploaded that stuff to our Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team TV Facebook page and our MNBRT Facebook group. And for those who are interested, by all means, feel free to send us a join to our MNBRT group.
Oh, I also have a group. I have a group I started about 2 years ago. It's called Pop's Bigfoot Hunter, and that's on Facebook. So I post some stuff on there. But yeah, the MMBRT site is really good. It's got more. I do more YouTube videos. Abe, on the other site, we have more of our actual filming, interviewing people, and then boots on the ground in the woods type of things. So,
nice. So you do a lot of posting on the Pop's Bigfoot Hunter?
that is my site I started about 2 years ago. So
Nice.
Abe is an administrator on that site. And then, like I say, the MMBRT.
Not yet, anyways.
No, okay. I better check my status real quick again here. But no, I mean, yeah.
I'm retired. I got to have a hobby in the wintertime, so I started a site.
Great question.
That's awesome. So, then MX from YouTube wants to know what is the best way to call them? I assume Bigfoot. Is there a way that you can kind of call them in or attract them?
I've mostly done tree knocks. Abe has done some of the Ohio hauls, and I'm pretty good at mimicking a timber wolf. I can actually sound just like a wolf hauling in the woods. I've done that a few times. And then, of course, the mumble talk that I heard, that was really creepy. That's another story, too. But, yeah, I prefer to use tree knocking.
In Minnesota, it seems like their primary way of communication is through wood knocking or tree knocking. And for those who don't know what that is, that's where we think that they take a piece of wood on wood sound and they hit it against a tree to get that acoustical sound of like how can I? We use these squatch sticks here. These are just like little bats, and all the team members have one. I got them all from our team members, and we take these and we hit a tree, which gives off a real good acoustical sound, and that sound travels a great distance. Now, the thing is, why we use this technique is because this technique has been documented in Great Apes for long distance communication, and it's also proven us pretty good if they are responsible for the wood knocking in response to us being the solicitors of that. So it's fun.
It's the greatest feeling when you get a response too. It's like, oh, yes.
Yeah, there's that, and then you can't help like, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Right? So you get that recorded? Yeah, we were running. But then he also mentioned the Ohio Hall too. And I don't know if there's a lot of people here in the chat. It looks like you got yourself a great chat. Hi, everybody in the chat, by the way. Thanks for joining us tonight. The Ohio Hall is dubbed the Ohio Hall because Matt Moneymaker recorded it back in 1994 from Ohio. And that kind of sounds like an air raid siren kind of going off. And Bobo, for instance, that's the call that he does in hopes of trying to get soliciting a response from a possible Bigfoot if they are indeed, responsible for the Ohio Hall. Yes, Pops and I were in between two, what we think there are Bigfoot creatures that were doing the Ohio Haul from the left, Ohio Haul from the right, and the team is right in between on a piece of land in between that going on. And wow. And that was a really great experience. That was back in July of 2018 when that occurred.
We also,
So,
after we heard the Ohio Halls, we could hear the coyotes start going nuts.
Well, the coyotes were going nuts prior to the Ohio Haul because
Yeah.
Bill, he did the Ohio Haul. And then we heard the coyotes going out to the right. And then out of nowhere, and then to the left. And we're like, what the heck is going on? It was so freaking cool, right? And my camera's rolling. I have a parabolic dish going on, and everything is recording. Everything is going good. However, the splitter from the parabolic dish that goes into my audio jack of the camera malfunctioned.
Done.
Record that.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Oh my gosh. So, however,
Yeah, none of our recorders worked that night.
However, I did post a video anyways under Pop's advice. I didn't want to post that. I really didn't want to post something like that. However, at that same time and location prior to the Ohio Haul, that's where he was walking with a thermal imager and seen something by a wood pile as well. It was the exact same spot, exact same night. Probably just a little bit before the Ohio Haul went off, to be honest with you. So that I think I did post that on our Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team YouTube page because I think it's over an hour, and you only get a certain amount of time to post on like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok too. They really kind of restrict you on that.
yeah. So I think I've already got your take on this because both you and Mike there mentioned equipment failure. So I've kind of already got your take on that, but I'm curious, Mike, what do you think about the equipment failure? Because I noticed that tends to happen a lot, especially when the experiences started getting really intense. When you want to capture something the most, sometimes you get this equipment failure where either your devices don't work or the recordings you thought you had aren't there. So what are what's your take on that?
Well, I've experienced that a couple of times where we've had equipment failure, and being as I've had infrasound done on me a few times, who knows what they can do to the equipment if they do the infrasound. They could screw up your equipment. I don't know. But all I know is there was a couple of times we've been out, the equipment seemed to work fine. And then once we got out into the woods and we started getting some action, some stuff going on, and the equipment started not working. It's just kind of weird. I don't know if that infrasound can do something to the equipment or not. I know I've had it done on me. So I've had the infrasound done on me a couple of times, and believe me, it's not fun having it done on you.
What does that
first
feel
time
like?
I felt like I was having a heart attack. Once I got out of the area, I was fine, and then I went back into the area again, and I started having panic attacks, which I never ever have panic attacks. And then another time, I was back in an area by myself, and I was just thinking, God, what a beautiful area for Bigfoot habitat back there. It was along a river, and there was an old trail going back in there. And I went back in on my four-wheeler, and all of a sudden, I had to get out of there. I don't know what it was. I was carrying a shotgun and a sidearm with me because I was in there grouse hunting. And all of a sudden, I just started, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. Whatever. I don't know why it was. I got on my four-wheeler and got out of there. Once I did that, I was all right. And the only thing I can think of is at that time, I didn't know much about infrasound. Now I can say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it was infrasound. They wanted me out of that area.
Yeah.
And that area is only about 3 miles from where I live, by the way. So.
Oh gosh, that's nerve-wracking. So you think it was because you were armed? I mean, Abe, I want your take on this when Mike explains, because I've heard that they know what those are, and that they don't like them. And when you go out armed, you are more likely to have a more intense up close experience to get you out of that area.
Me
What
or
do you
Abe?
think of? Well, you first. I mean, do you think that was because you were armed that they wanted you out so bad?
Uh, Not necessarily, because in years past where I deer hunt, um, they've been in the area. They've actually left gifts in my deer stand. I had a dead rabbit in there one, and the reason for that is when I shoot a deer, you clean the deer out in the field there and take the guts out. And there's been more than one time I've come back the next day and the gut pile was completely gone. And that time of year, you got to keep in mind that most bears are in hibernation. So what cleaned that gut pile up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so they don't look at hunters as being a negative thing, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And like I say, they've left me gifts in the past off the deer stands. I've had deer pushed to me on opening morning. Nobody in the woods. It's like, okay, what moved all these deer right into my area? I got my deer that I wanted. The next day I come back because we're hunting with the hunting party and the gut pile's gone. I go, okay, if they pushed a deer to me, I shot the deer. I left the remains that I wasn't going to take. And the gut pile is probably the best part of the whole deer for Bigfoot. It's got the best meat in it for staying warm or whatever you want to call it. Most nutrition.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because it's a lot of organs and stuff. What
Yes.
about you, Abe? What do you think about the whole gun thing?
You know, I think to a point you might be right that they do know what they are. I think that they know what they are capable of because they've been watching people hunt in the woods for hundreds of years, right? Let's put it that way. So they know that they got the stick that they point and it makes a sound and an animal goes down and dies or gets wounded and there's a blood trail. Um, I think they do know that. However, I know they watch the hunters as well for a free meal. Now, um, if you look at our logo here, and there is right here. It has a deer over its shoulder, and
Ah,
there's been hunters that have relayed that they followed the blood trail, they seen where the deer should have been, and they're looking around, but they off in the distance they see this big, tall, dark thing with the deer over its shoulder. And I was like, that's awesome. So
wow.
yeah, so that's why I think they also can, if they can get away with it, and if the deer falls far enough uh, away from the hunter, why not get a free meal? I mean, we're talking about a scavenger. We're talking about a creature that can come up and raid outdoor refrigerators and freezers, like at the seas of Honabi in Honabi, Oklahoma, and the chicken coops. There's rabbit coops and stuff like that. They've been they I was researching down in Iowa, and the person who had a renter on this property, this renter's dog was barking and barking and barking. It was a husky, and then there was silent. And so they went to go check on the husky, and this husky was on a chain, but they seen this creature walking off with a husky under its arm. And then what about the Falk monster in Boggy Creek in Falk, Arkansas, where the thing is carrying off 100-pound hogs and stuff like that too. So we're talking about something that's very opportunistic and a scavenger that will seize the opportunity. If they really wanted Mike out of the area, I think he would have started experiencing more of debris being thrown at him, sticks and rocks and things like that, maybe shaking of trees, because that's what we see with great apes when that occurs, and even younger, even monkeys too.
Um, yeah, but
Well,
like, go ahead, Mike.
a lot of times, okay, if they do infrasound on you or they want you out of an area, it's my opinion is because you get too close to the clan. And that year we did that finding Bigfoot was in that same area where I hunt. And that open morning in November, I had rocks and sticks thrown at me in the morning. And then when it got light, they did the infrasound on me. And in my opinion, that was their way of showing they were not happy with me bringing people into that area. film crews and all that, they were not happy about that. I kind of like I ruined their trust with them.
Wow.
They're,
Wow.
they're intelligent. They're not stupid. So,
Oh yeah. So what was it like after that experience where you feel like you ruined your trust? Did it take you a while to kind of have some more encounters there, or?
um, yeah, I've not had a whole lot of encounters in that area since.
Oh,
Last fall, I was in that area. I was scouting out. We were looking for an old deer stand, and my youngest son was with me. And he was out walking around down in the lower cedars, and I was waiting for him, and I just had the sense that something was really creepy. It was just really creepy. And then he came walking back, and we got out of there, and we got on the main road, and I told him, God, I just felt really creeped out back there. And he goes, yeah, he felt the same way. It was really weird. And like I say, it's an area I've been in my whole life, and all of a sudden it feels creepy, like you want to get out of there. But it wasn't infrasound. It just felt like something was watching us.
It was that crazy rabbit.
Yeah, this was last October.
And I say that crazy rabbit because Pops and I were in this area and we were having a bonfire. And this rabbit,
God, yeah.
Yeah, this rabbit was one of the boldest rabbits, or there was something crazy with it. I don't know, but this rabbit was one of the boldest rabbits. It was so close to us, it just wasn't afraid.
wow.
You could have went and petted the rabbit. That's how the rabbit was looking to us for safety. Something had scared the rabbit into us.
Wow.
And I believe we might have gotten a tree knock that night back there too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we did. Yes, we did. Yep, I remember that. Yep,
Wow.
a couple of them off in the distance. But yes.
That's interesting. So I'm wondering, do you guys have any non-Bigfoot, maybe even throwing Abe under the bus here, comical stories of anything that Abe has done, like taking a dive down a hill?
I get my car stuck a lot.
Oh God. Oh God.
That's one thing that they can fault me for, is that my driving. I mean, I like to speed. I am a speeder. Okay, I'm doing 85 minimum. It was probably back in 2020 when we were going to go check out the venue for the Minnesota Bigfoot Conference. And
Yeah,
actually, it was February. It was probably February of 2020, and it was me, Pops, and Joel, and we were taking this back way to get down there. It was snowy. The roads were slick as hell, and I was going a little too fast. I slid off, and Pops had to call somebody with a shovel to come, and we got shoveled out. There was this other time in 2016 or 2017. I was driving on really wet, marshy land, and I got my Pontiac stuck. There was this one time in my vehicle that I have now that I was kind of going across a waterlogged road, and my vehicle died out, and I had to get chained out and pulled back. So I like to I literally use my vehicles as off-road vehicles or four-wheelers or something like that, because the Pontiac was not one of them, but now I got an SUV that's all-wheel drive. So yeah. Other than that, I haven't really took a dive down the hill. Maybe up a hill by sliding up on mud and taking a knee. But I've never gotten really full Humpty Dumpty.
And I'm gonna say
You got to realize too. You got to realize too. We go in places where most people wouldn't even dream of going. So if you go in an area like that, you're taking a chance you're going to get stuck or something could happen. So.
And he's absolutely right. I mean, if one of us gets hurt, we're not leaving the other person back there. And so we really try to watch and mind our P's and Q's and where our footing and our stepping and stuff like that, and our foot placement. And then not just that, when you're going through the thickness that we're going into, you got these sticks and this brush that could actually poke your eyes too. So you kind of got to be mindful on not where you're walking, but actually where what's coming towards your face as well.
Oh yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. And actually, I go into a lot of places where typically there isn't cell phone service. So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I recently invested in a satellite phone
Okay.
because, like you said, if anybody were to get hurt and you're with a group of only one other person, that's risky. So it's nice to have something to fall back on in an emergency situation. So that's something I've recently invested in myself, just so I could feel that peace of mind knowing that we'd be able to call for help if we needed to.
Yeah, yeah, and so if anything like that were to happen, I mean, we're staying right there with that team member, or we're helping them out and are carrying them over our shoulder.
Yeah.
You know,
Unless you're both hurt.
yeah, and that's and I get criticized for that because it's like, okay, women have wanted to join our team, and we've had a couple, we've had a husband and a wife, and that just didn't work out. However, I'm like, okay, so picture this: we are back where we go, and something happens to me. How are you going to get me out? How are you going to throw me over your shoulder and get me out of there, or what? You're not going to leave me there. How is this going to work out? So,
Yeah.
and not to be sexist in any way, shape, or form,
Yeah.
but let's keep it real,
And statistically, I mean, there's not as many women in the Bigfoot research field as there are men anyway. So,
Right? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, but so I know that you said that you could mimic the mumble talk pops. Can you give
Yeah.
us an example? Can you do the mumble talk for us?
Yeah, I can. And there's a story behind that. I was clearing out a trail going back to the woods where we hunt. I went in there by myself. And I was back in about probably a total of 6 miles on a four-wheeler. And I got off my machine. I was get the chainsaw off the back of the machine and start cutting the trail open. This was like about this was probably about the middle of September. And back in September, it's so green and I can't see more than about 20, 30 feet. But as I got off the four-wheeler, I heard this Bigfoot, or I believe it was, actually coming in behind me on the same trail. I heard it go mirror, 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 and I'm going, what in the heck am I hearing? And then about 30 seconds later, another one answered him, and it was right out in front of me, about 30 yards in, but I couldn't see that far because everything was still really green. I couldn't see that far, and it answered using the same mumble talk. It's meow, 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 meow. And then the other one answered, and this went on for probably about 20 minutes or so.
Wow.
And then the two of them joined together. And my first thought was to walk in there and see what the heck is going on. And then I said, no, I'm in this far all by myself. No, my best bet was to just get on the wheeler and get out of there. And that's what I did. But I did that mumble talk to Ron Moorhead at one of our conferences. I think it was our first conference in
It was the first
2020.
NBC.
And Ron, I did that for him. He said that he had heard that more than once in the woods with the Bigfoot. And he said that it was remarkable how well I could imitate that mumble talk that they did. I've actually tried that in the woods before, but I've not gotten any response that I know of. So,
Right. Yep.
That's interesting. I know that I think that I have also experienced something along the same lines, but it's so far away. So it was me and Chad and Jason Kinsey from Searching for Sasquatch documentaries, all out in the mountains. And we were in mountains where there was guaranteed nobody for miles. It was out in Oregon. And we heard that. And I didn't hear it at first. Jason heard it first. Then Chad heard it. And they're like, sounds like somebody's talking. And then I heard it and I'm like, okay, yeah, it sounds like maybe somebody talking off in the distance. So it's interesting that that seems to happen a lot with these Bigfoot experiences. And I'm kind of wondering, not a lot, but you hear people talking about it. I'm kind of wondering, like, what is the goal of this sort of speak? Are they speaking to each other? Are they just grumbling that you're in the area? Or like, what's your theory on the purpose behind the way they're, because they can definitely make louder sounds.
Well, they definitely have their own language. I have no doubt about it. And they were talking, both of them were talking loud enough that I could definitely hear them. And I know they could hear each other. So to me, that's their form of language. I just don't understand what they're saying. And they probably don't understand what I'm saying either. So it's kind of like a foreign language.
It makes a lot of sense, actually. I think
And my
Bigfoot just swiped Abe. Oh, nope, there he is.
No. I don't know if are you familiar with the Bigfoot recordings at all?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Like the chatter and you're talking about yours specifically?
No, I'm talking about Ron Moorhead's Sierra Sound CDs, the Bigfoot recordings that he
Yes.
recorded. Yeah. So, and for
you
those
got the
who
ball
are
blaster?
for those who are not familiar with that, all these great people in your chat room, I would highly recommend if you can find, Google it, and you might be able to find some of the Bigfoot recordings on YouTube as well. And you can hear interaction between creatures. One have a deeper voice and the one in a lighter voice, which we would think it would indicate male and female conversation. And even above that, as Pops has mentioned, that they have their own language. Well, retired Navy cryptozoologist, great friend of mine, brother in research, R. Scott Nelson, has what he has combined and put together as the Sasquatch phonetic alphabet from listening to Ron Moorhead's Bigfoot sounds and Bigfoot recordings. So where there is language, there's also culture.
Yeah, that's so true. Absolutely. Great point, Abe.
Yeah. I love it. I'm geeking out. Sorry.
Yeah, I can tell how excited you get because you keep talking, you keep rubbing your arm because you keep getting these chills.
I get goosebumps talking about it. Me and my, we have this passion for this, and it's like when we're together, we're just keep on lighting each other's fire for this passion and stuff like that because we really like what we're doing here.
I can see Pop smile too. You can tell that you're passionate about it too. And I feel like
he's thinking about the rabbit again.
Oh, you know what? That's what makes it fun is how we enjoy being out there and the excitement that it gives us. So yeah, I can tell you guys are both very passionate about it.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yep. You know, and with Mike having seen 3 of them, I wanted to go back, if you don't mind, and go to his first encounter. And because he said he was really focusing on the face, and he described it as looking like an ancient man, a prehistoric man of some kind. Now, Mike, when you were looking at that, how would you describe the head? Was it more conical? I got a couple for instances here. So we can see Patty's head, sculpture of Patty's head, of it being more conical versus the Minnesota Iceman's head, where it's more roundish. How would you depict the ones that you see?
The one that I seen at that close range was more roundish. But what I remember, what really stuck out was the way the forehead protruded over the eyes more. And then the nose was big and fat and flattened kind of. And then the mouth, the lips were huge. And I had, back in the 70s, a friend of mine worked at the state fair in Minnesota. And he got me into the Iceman expedition exhibit. And he got me early in the morning before the ferry started. And I looked at the Iceman in that glass coffin. They had it frozen in there.
Yeah.
And what I remember that really rings a bell with the research was the smell. How bad it smelled, because they were having a problem with the refrigeration unit keeping this thing frozen. And I could remember the smell. I've smelt that out in the woods more than once when I've been out in the woods researching. And then another thing with the Iceman finger, the bone was protruding through the finger. And what convinced me it was real, and I know there's been a fake that, what convinced me this was real is back then they didn't have the technology to make stuff like they would now.
Yeah.
I mean, this was too real to be made, be a fake. But the face was real similar to the Iceman, except that this creature was about 3 times bigger than the Iceman in the coffin. So I'm guessing the Iceman probably was a juvenile, younger one that they had.
Right on. And so it had a brow ridge, basically. It didn't have a sagittal crest, but it had a brow ridge and it had a really flat nose. You mentioned that it was probably about 20-ish, 30-ish feet from you. How did you see any, can you describe teeth, whether its mouth ajar or the color of the eyes?
The eyes were dark. Really didn't see any teeth. Like I say, I could smell it as well because it walked into me and the wind was coming out of the north. So the wind was coming into me. I could smell it and it never scented me. It didn't even know I was there until I made a noise. And then it turned and looked at me and just stood there and stared at me. And then it turned and like 4 steps, it was gone.
Wow.
Back into towards the cedar stands.
You brought up smell. We talked about smell earlier in the show here. How would you describe it? And because we talked about different kinds of smell, like for the example, the Florida skunk, it kind of has a skunky sulfur smell, versus some of the ones up here, probably in Minnesota, that just smell rancid or like a swamp, wet dog, wet deer. How would you describe the one that you kind of smelled?
I've actually smelled. I've got a couple different times I've smelt them. I think probably one of the most common smells to them would be smell like a wet dog, a real dog that hadn't had a bath, or a wet dog, kind of like a swampy smell. Another time I scented, I smelled the woods. I thought somebody was actually baiting for bear. It smelled like rotting garbage, meat.
Right.
Yep. And I walked the area looking, couldn't find it, so I knew it wasn't somebody bear baiting. The Squatch had been in the area. In fact, you know the area real well. It's where we camped that time out there and on the hill behind us, the lake's in front of us and the hill behind us. Up on the top of the hill, my dad and I were out walking that hill because there's trails going back there and I could smell it. And we thought somebody was in there baiting for bear hunting. And I left my dad in that spot and I walked circles bigger and bigger and bigger each time I'd walk a circle.
Sure.
And I never found what made the smell, and then the smell went away. Mm-hmm. So that tells you right there that, it was something moving.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
100%. In Ohio, I have smelled something rancid. And I've never heard anybody else describe it like this. And I don't know if it's just because I have experience behind this smell that I compare it to that. But when I smell these random smells, and like Pops was saying, it disappears. So it's definitely something moving. I had captured in a live trap a possum, and I moved it from the live trap over into a dog carrier until I could figure out what to do with it. And I kept it in there for like a day and fed it, gave it water until I could figure out what to do with it. I actually released it.
Right. Yeah.
So I actually released it later. But while it was in there, this smell, it was just this very, I don't know, almost mildewy mixed with wet dog smell. But when I smelled it out in the woods, it smells exactly like that mixed with urine. Like there's that urine additive smell to it. So if anybody has ever had an enclosed possum in a dog carrier for a day, they kind of know what smell I'm talking about. And every now and again, I'll get a whiff of that when I'm in the woods in a known Bigfoot area. And it's mixed, that smells mixed with urine. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's a Bigfoot. But I've not really had like super intense experiences to kind of back up and collaborate that with that smell. But I just wonder if that could be maybe a Bigfoot passing by.
It's
you
possible.
never know. Right.
Bears will smell it too. I used to
Yes.
do guiding for bear hunting, and bear will give off an odor as well, but not like that. Not like what I smelled. That was
Yeah. We
bad.
don't have any bear, and we do, but they're like super sporadic. Like they're just passing through. So as often as I smelled it, it doesn't really, match the rare sightings of bear that we have in Ohio. But yeah, that's interesting.
So, Pops, you were recently in a book that was published here by Mike Quast. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about how that experience was for you?
Personally, I haven't read the book, so I haven't gotten a copy of the book to read it. So.
Well, okay. So the book is called Bigfoot, the Minnesota Scene, by Mike Quast, and it's put out by our good friend Hanger One Publishing, who is also known as Doug Hychek, who is the producer of the original Monster Quest on History Channel. And you can find Mike here on page 24 of the book. And he has a couple of pages of, he has a couple of pages here of his encounters and what he does. So, yeah, it's definitely a book that it's about Bigfoot's researchers and their investigations here in the land of 10,000 lakes. Because let's face it, Bigfoot's all over the United States. So why not the land of 10,000 lakes when we have food, water, and shelter, and a lot of woods too? So it's a really, really good book. I think Mike did a great job at saying, what he kind of covered here. But also the other Mike Quast, he has also published a couple other books as far as Bigfoot here in Minnesota as well. So check that out when you get it.
Very cool. Yeah. So sure we can find that on Amazon. Amazon has pretty much all the books.
Totally do.
Yeah.
I'll have to get a copy.
Yeah.
I'll sign
what's
it
funny
for you.
is, yeah, I don't know if you guys have a habit of this, but I fear watching myself on TV or hearing myself on podcasts. I tend to like not focus on myself if I do watch or listen to anything that involves me.
Why? You're great.
Don't know. Just pick yourself apart. And I don't know if that's why
Don't
Mike
do
hasn't
that.
read
You're
it.
doing a great job here. You're amazing.
Oh, hell yeah, I'd watch it. I'd watch it again.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. But so people can definitely find Pop's personal work on YouTube and Facebook under Pop's Bigfoot Hunter. And also some things on MNBRT on YouTube and Facebook as well. And I know it's not MNBRT, it's Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team.
That is on YouTube. Yeah, correct. And just a correction, Pops, I don't know if you're on. Do you have your Pops Bigfoot Hunter on YouTube yet?
Did I what now?
Are you on YouTube besides your personal YouTube page?
No, I've been meaning to do that. I just haven't gotten around to it. So, being at 68 years old, I'm not as technical as you guys. I mean, it took me a year to figure out how to work this damn phone.
So just for the correction, Pops has a Facebook page called Pops, or a group, I should say, called Pops Bigfoot Hunter. We have Minnesota.
That's on YouTube.
Yep, not on YouTube yet. And then for the team, we have Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team on YouTube, Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team Facebook page, Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team TV Facebook page, MNBRT Facebook group, and Minnesota Bigfoot Conference Facebook page.
My site is on.
Yes.
Yeah, my site is.
Yep.
What was that, Mike?
I said my site is on Facebook. I am going to get a YouTube page going because I want to start doing some filming out here. I get bored. I got all the time in the world. I want to start getting back into some areas and doing some filming this summer. So that means I have to buy a camera and figure out how to work it.
Sometimes a
Plus,
really nice phone with a really nice camera is all you need. That way it's already there and you can just upload it.
We'll get him a Polaroid. No.
I'm the old man on the
Have
team.
fun picking on you.
I'm the old man on the team, so.
Oh my gosh.
That's all right. You bring the flair, I'm sure. You guys have been wonderful tonight. It has been such a pleasure, Abe, to have you on helping me co-host. You were awesome. You brought some great points to the conversation. And Pops, you're awesome. I would love to have you on again sometime. And I can tell that you and Abe have a lot of fun together.
Oh, yeah.
We definitely do. And I want to say thank you for the opportunity and the invite to have me co-host.
Thank you.
It's a treat. It really is a treat. And I had a great time. And it's always a great time ribbing Pops as well. And to your awesome chat room here as well. You guys, thank you very much for coming in and listening to us. We appreciate that.
Awesome. If you guys want to hang out, we'll do the outro and we'll talk just a little bit longer.
Cool.
Bye.
Sure.